Hey, Cody.
What's up, Cody?
Hey, how you doing? Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out how to get my camera to turn on.
Oh, there we
That's
go.
okay. We can make you.
Oh, there we are. There we are.
We'll make
Start.
you an avatar.
There we go. I'm in my backyard. I can. Nick, how did I forget that you're in Walnut Creek?
I don't know. How did you?
I don't know either. I'm enjoying this lovely day over here in Martinez. It was so beautiful. I'm like, okay, I'm outside today.
I know. It's not
There
too
you
hot
go.
today, huh?
Oh, dude, the last couple of days have been
Brutal.
absolutely. So how you guys doing, man?
Doing great. Just hanging in there, trying to
Yeah.
trying to stay busy,
How's I mean, I'm sure how's COVID been treating you? We're both obviously shut down. Have you been
Yeah,
able to do anything?
we never completely shut down except for maybe a couple of weeks where we just had like nothing going on.
Okay.
But we did go from 20 guys to 2 or 3, so it
Were
hurt
you
us bad. Yeah.
Were you able to just? You're furloughing them, or sending
Yeah.
them for unemployment, or were you okay?
Yeah. They were laid off and went on unemployment, and now we're back to work. We're busier than we can handle at the moment, which is good and bad.
Seriously,
we need people.
We went down to a skeleton crew, which was essentially me running the office, everyone else working from home.
Yeah.
We're going to be reopened. All management is in on Monday, and then we're going to slowly start bringing in sales folks and all that. My biggest concern now is, more than anything, getting people's mindset out of this. I'm afraid of everything and I don't want to go anywhere, and trying to get people to get back to a normal day to day. So
yeah, exactly.
I figure if we can do that in June, then really starting Q3. But we're probably 65% down for this quarter so far. We were lucky. Q1 we tied last year, which I say lucky. I was targeting 15 to 20% growth, but our March took a dump. And then, April and May have been, so we'll see. But the good news is it just means there's a butt ton of scratch that everyone's going to need to fix. So
that's right.
Q3 is going to be amazing, right? That's what I keep telling. It's not speed, right? We went down. We're going to go back up.
Yeah.
Paul agrees.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're already seeing it.
I'm going to go look for the local fish offices and start poaching window cleaners.
We've been doing good. Obviously, we're all over the country because we're a franchise. But we're picking back up really, really fast. It's surprising though. Like you talk about being scared, and folks we're seeing throughout most states, and people are not. It's kind of a unique situation. We're going in and selling, we're going in and cleaning, and people do not mind whatsoever.
That is the best news I could hear, because the hard part is, my one of our biggest distributor is based in Italy, and obviously they got shut down before we did. And I was on the phone with them, and they kept calling, and they're like, "Dude, whatever you do, listen, don't go outside." They're like, "You will die." And everyone was like, doom and gloom, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm an American. We don't believe that." It's good, but I got a pistol. I'm good to go. Type kind of thing, which just makes them laugh. They think it's so crazy that Americans anyway. But so the hard part for me now has been trying to manage on a global level. Europe, parts of Europe are opening up. California, the hard part is right now California is still so shut down that we're just running into that. But we've had a couple of huge projects. Georgia Tech, we just did like 3 huge buildings there. We've had 5 Glass Renew users out there all month. And then we're starting one down Roll Tide, Alabama. We're going to be down there working on several administration buildings. Well, I say Glass Renew users are going to be doing that. We're seeing some of those projects. Where I've been really interested to see is in the window cleaning industry, because window cleaning was considered an essential service since it is part of sanitation, just to get more, insight from you guys in terms of, and really the market in general, because I know, everyone's beating me up. Cody, what are your projections? What do you think's going to happen Q3? What's going to happen? And it's kind of like, well, guys, we could definitely go through that mental masturbation right now and do the what if scenarios all over. But, 3 months ago it was going to be a 2-week shutdown. So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
That tough part, when you start talking about what's the projection going to look like, customers and buildings and places are going to need their buildings to look clean and seamless. And so even scratches and dirt, they're going to want that stuff fixed, because then they're going to bring customers back in with a good appearance on the outside. And so that's going to be really important for sure, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's going to be, it's interesting because the two of you guys represent kind of like, two entirely different market segments within this market, right? From a national franchise organization to a solid primary market high-rise cleaning, organization, and then to supplier. So it's just interesting to hear all that. I agree with you. I think it's going to be it's going to be really important for window cleaners and all contract cleaning service providers to really step up that marketing game. And, I don't, Nick, I don't know. I know with the shutdown and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure you guys have been doing it. Obviously, I mean, we have been nonstop working on projects. We're getting ready. We just set up a whole new training facilities. We're going to be opening a new training facility in Atlanta here towards the end of this summer.
Awesome.
And that's the thing is, if I'm trying to start out with Atlanta, but we've already got one also set up for Wuppertal, Germany, one in Venice, Italy. We're talking to some folks in Sydney right now, Hong Kong, although Hong Kong today all of a sudden just went dead, which is scaring the crap out of me because I got about $250,000 in pending orders to Hong Kong right now. And I'm like, can we wait till next quarter, please? This is 20% of my targeted annual.
Wow.
Anyway, but so I mean, we're doing that. We've launched a whole new marketing tool for Glass Renew users globally, our technician location map. So we redid all of that, got all that. We're putting together a new free training initiative, First Friday free trainings in California, open to everyone who wants to come. And if they come, they also get a discount on anything that they buy while they're there. So it's double incentive, come for a Friday, spend the weekend in wine country, right? And you can write it all off. That's kind of what our thought
There you
was.
go.
So get that on the recording. Let's get that on the recording.
This is recorded. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it is. And then we'll do a more formal. But so I mean, we've got all of these things. We've got some new products that we've been developing, better polishing compounds that are not only amazing against hard water stains, but then they also make it much easier when you're polishing in the final stages of scratch removal to get a clearer result quicker. So we've got that coming out. What else? It's been nonstop. We've got new, and then internally all kinds of audits and all that stuff. You got to, but I think that's going to be one of the things that, is a mantra or message that I think is going to be important to start pushing into the industry, which is, guys, if you've been sitting on your laurels, you're doing it wrong. So now's the time to do it, because as things start opening up here in the next couple of weeks, now is the time to execute. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so if the Hilton only has so much money to clean their hotels. If you're not in the front of that line, don't count on it. So
yeah. No, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Like, to answer your question from a minute ago was, what we have noticed is, even though we were an essential business, we were allowed to work the entire time as cleaning and sanitization. Right. Buildings are just empty, So they're like, why are we going to have our windows cleaned right now? So it was tough. We're trying to push the sanitization. We're trying to push soft washing, bleaching everything basically to kill the virus, trying to push pressure washing, keep things looking nice, but they just didn't want to spend the money. And I get it. So I see two things. One, when they do open back up, Paul, you're absolutely right. They're going to need it clean because they are getting filthy right now, first and foremost. So if they want to bring business back in once they open up, they got to clean them up. And they're going to want to sanitize and stuff before they open up. But on the other side of that, we've noticed a few, not a lot, but a few businesses, managers have lost a lot of revenue from tenants not paying rent. So so it's like, even though we're expecting to get extremely busy, we've got this little bit of fear, and I'm not focused on this at all. I'm focused on the big side of things where people are going to do it. But there is that little bit of fear of, well, it's just not in our budget this year. But that's okay, because over here we've got so much, or over here, I'm backwards on my screen. But like you said, Cody, like when all this happened, I doubled down on SEO, because I know that everybody else is going to be focusing on the fear side of things. I shouldn't say everybody, but the majority are probably going to be focused on that fear side, shutting everything down, hoarding all their cash, which of course you have to do what you have to do. But I just said, screw it, put it on a credit card. Let's get the SEO running. Let's get our website cranked out, boosted up, and just get the ads out there. I got my sales guy going nuts. Yeah. So it's like, when it does come up, like you said, we're going to be top of mind, forefront of that line. And, hopefully we're the ones that pick up that work. So right now I'm doubling down on my hiring too, because I'm going to need people when it comes up,
I hear you. I sent out a new offer letter today. Right before this, I was on a meeting with my head of training, and that's where I probably was a little colored in terms of my perspective. My hardest part is my head of training spends 75% of his time, 3 weeks out of every month, on the road traveling, and he's going around doing all that. And I had to have the conversation with him this morning that basically he told me until there's a vaccine, he's not going to jump on a plane.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, you look at it and I was like, dude, I got 3 years invested in this guy. All this stuff we're doing, they're talking September, maybe. Okay, well, figure it out. It's like, it's one of those things where you got to give a little bit of time, but it's I kept finding myself saying things like, dude, I hate to be the guy who quotes Kennedy, but the only thing we have to fear is fear itself,
Yep. Perfect.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
I mean, if there were 20 million dead bodies piled in streets, okay, I get it. If there were 2 million dead bodies, I get it. 1 million dead bodies, well, okay. But when more people have died choking on peanuts since January,
I hate to laugh at it, but you're right.
Well, I didn't die from Zika, but I was going to. I didn't die from swine flu. 2 years before that, it was before swine flu, avian flu.
Yeah.
Before that, it was SARS.
Yeah.
And God, if it isn't every 2 years that these things happen, there's so many different thoughts and all that kind of junk out there. But my big thing in looking at all of this is just kind of like, okay, the emotion right now that everyone is feeling is very valid, but we have to figure out a way as business owners and businessmen to temper that in our employees with reason, without coming across as being a cold, callous son of a bitch. You're just worried about profit. Well, no, I'm worried that everyone needs a paycheck, myself included.
Correct.
And if we're not creating value, we're not going to do that. So
yeah. And to your point there, because we have some employees that refuse to come back to work right now, which, I'm not going to force them, and I'm not going to be that guy,
Right.
For one, I don't even know if I legally can. And two, right. I don't want them coming back and getting infected, God forbid, on my conscience, Right. So it's like, I get it. It hurts the business a lot, but at the same time, I'm warning them, just keep in mind, a few things could happen. One, you might get denied unemployment. Right. If we have work for you and you're denying it, that's your choice, but just keep that in mind. Number two, if we go under as a company because we don't have any employees coming to work, that means you don't have a job to come back to.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
exactly. Or if you get to the point where the work is piling up and you need another body,
yep.
You're going to have to replace it.
That's exactly what, right. Exactly.
And it's not a fun, there's no one, I've never met any business owner when they hire someone, or when I've ever hired anyone, I think about the day I'm going to have to fire someone, right?
Yeah.
I don't like firing people. I like building, right? Not
absolutely.
shrinking. And so, these are the fun parts of, this is the sexy part of being an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
Well,
good stuff,
man.
Love it.
All right.
All right. Should we jump into this?
Let's do it.
All right. Let me get my game face on.
All right. Game face.
All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another show with the IWCA. Nick Thurston here hosting with Cody Thomas, right out of my backyard here in the Bay Area from Glass Renu. I'll let him tell a little bit about what he does. And we also got Paul Collum on here again, our president, to help out. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this. So Cody, first and foremost, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself and then, how'd you get into your business? What is it? What do you guys do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I founded Glass Renew back in 2006. Believe it or not, before that, I was actually studying to be a genetic engineer. I ended up going and doing oncology research, cancer research at the University of Utah. And I learned very quickly that what a genetic researcher does is move very small volumes of liquid from one tube to another, like this. And I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that for the rest of my life. So I went back to business school and ended up graduating with an MBA and went out, worked in aerospace defense, and used to build jet fighters and targeting systems and all that kind of fun stuff. It was a lot of fun. Lived in Texas for that. Did that for about 5 years. And at the time I was out there, my brother, younger brother, he's a contractor, and he had taken a job as his first superintendent job with a company called Centex Homes. They're based out of San Antonio. But they were down, and he was overseeing a development in San Luis Obispo, California. It was an 80-home development. And so what ended up happening is it was all stucco on the exterior. Stucco got on every single window. My brother, being a greenhorn of a superintendent, didn't understand what construction cleanup was and decided he was going to play hardball with the stucco sub. And so he decided he was going to withhold payment until the stucco was off the glass. Well, 30-day laborers and a bunch of putty knives later, every piece of glass on that development was destroyed. But the vendor got paid, which was pretty hilarious. So anyway, at that time, I was in a transition period between the defense company I was working for, and I was actually interviewing, because all kinds of fun consolidation in that industry. And I was living with my brother, and he came home from work. And I just could tell from looking at him, what's going on? He said, Cody, every window's messed up. We're going to have to replace them all. And it's going to take 8 weeks. And this was back in 2006, right before the housing bubble burst. But everybody who was in that industry kind of knew something wasn't right. We need to get these off of our balance sheet. We got to sell them. And so when I heard that, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, wait a minute. I just finished working on communication software that allowed a pilot in Langley, Virginia, to pilot a remote control airplane the size of a school bus in real time in Afghanistan, while a guy in Colorado is deciding if we're going to shoot a missile or not. And we do that, but you're telling me we can't get a scratch out of a piece of glass? No, I don't believe it. You got to go away. And so that was the genesis for starting Glass Renew. And we, in my initial research, going out and looking at every product that was out there, I kept finding really big holes in all of their product offerings. It was, everyone had something if you couldn't feel the scratch with your fingernail. But the moment you could feel the scratch with your fingernail across the board, it didn't matter who was the manufacturer, it was just said, no, can't be taken out. It's, you got to replace it. And it was in kind of poking holes in that theory that I started lining up what were the issues. And the big issues that I like to look at things and look at problems and solve were, what are the root causes? Why couldn't you do it? And that led us to develop all sorts of new abrasive materials and methodologies, get patents and do all that. And, so now fast forward 14 years. 14 years this August, and here we are. We've now got distribution across 5 continents. We've got distribution points in our warehouses in 48 countries. There's only one time zone that around the globe that we don't have a Glass Renew user in. Once we fill that one, then we will be able to say we were just like the Japanese Empire. The sun never sets on us. But it's been an incredible trip. When I started the company, the first year I went after glass manufacturers and they didn't want to talk to me. And then I found Gary Mauer's windowcleaning.net forum, the old email forum. And, other than getting 30,000 emails a year, which kind of annoyed me, I learned a lot, I kept listening. And I kept figuring out, okay, so who's Gary Mauer? Okay. Who's Dan Fields? Okay. Who is, going through Craig Aldrich, Mark Reinhardt, and it quickly brought me to the IWCA, obviously. And while we were there, I think the first year we were involved with the IWC was the year Mark Reinhardt, I don't know if it was his first year or as president or whatever. Anyway, We started working with the IWCA because it became very evident to me that the people who spend all day in front of glass, window cleaners, and who always are being blamed for scratches, window cleaners,
Yep.
and who everyone wants to fix it, window cleaners. So we see a recurring path, and I was like, okay, you know what? This is a market that really offers an opportunity for us to help. And with my scientific background and, you know, kind of eggheadish vocabulary at times, I love the challenge of trying to solve the unsolvable. You know, have someone tell me you can't do it, and I'm going to go after it. No different than, I was about to say no different than Elon Musk launching a car around Mars, but I'm not quite ready to even put myself in the same sentence as him, so to speak. But there you go. I love solving problems, you know, and helping people out, and that's what Glass Renew is. I think Kurt Kempton from 5-Star Window Cleaning Responsibility, he had the best line I ever heard. He said, "You know what? We're a customer service company that happens to clean windows." Well, I'm going to steal that, but I am giving credit to Kurt. We're a customer service company that happens to make tools that remove scratches from glass. And, you know, at the end of the day, whether you end up, whether someone ends up as a customer of ours or not, is not important to me. What's most important to me is that when people in the industry or people out there have a problem, that they know they can come get a solution. Because I'm confident enough in our products that if they make the decision that they want to get into scratch removal or that it's something that they need to offer, I feel confident that they'll end up with us. But on the way to us, I'd love to teach them as much as I can.
That's awesome. So from genetic engineering to cancer research to defense to removing scratches from glass that was previously said couldn't be done, it's safe to say you're a pretty smart fella, huh?
You know what? I would say this. I've been very lucky to have the opportunities to learn as much as I have. But, you know, it's one of those axioms they always say, the smarter you get, the dumber you are. Because until you don't know what you don't know until you find out. And so you know, and it's one of the things, some of the smartest guys I've met and learned have been through these organizations. And these are not PhDs. You know, I think, you know, so much about intelligence is wisdom versus intelligence. And there's a lot of both that, and especially in times like right now, with everything that's going on in the world today, you know, it's not about intelligence, it's about wisdom. It's about understanding how to apply that intelligence so that we don't ever shut down the global economy again for anything. You know, I mean, Don't get me wrong. We did what we all had to do, and we understand that, and we all took upon ourselves in civic responsibility. But I think we're all in agreement that this was a once in a lifetime thing for all of us, because I know I'm not really going to be too happy if we got to do it again.
Absolutely. Love that. So with the removing scratches and whatnot, like how difficult of a process is it? Like how much training does it take for someone to actually get efficient at doing that?
So what I always tell everyone is, obviously with everything, there's a learning curve, all right? Whether you're starting to flip a squeegee for the first time. I mean, I remember I for a short time owned a window cleaning company. So that I started one after we started selling tools to the window cleaning company. And I just did some stuff in the La Miranda area. It's a high-end area, very expensive residential area around here. Nick will be aware of. Most people around the country don't know it, but it's where basically all the bankers from San Francisco live, right?
Yeah.
And so I would clean windows there, and flipping a squeegee, it took me, you know, a couple hours to learn it. And I spent the next 6 months mastering it. And I would not put myself up for a speed cleaning competition, okay? Because I know I'm going to leave all kinds of marks. Glass Renew, what I tried to do is I tried to set it up and try to create a tool that is intuitive. And really what we did is we looked at the process from the top down and said, okay, what do we need to do and what is superfluous? What is not important? And that led to us developing abrasives that allowed us to grind the glass very easily. And what I always tell people is very much, imagine that you have a wood dining room table, a pine dining room table that your kids do their homework on with a ballpoint pen, and they just, you know, mar it all up. Didn't mean to, but now you got scratches in the wood. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to start with an aggressive, an 80 or a 100 grit sandpaper, and you're going to sand it till you don't feel the bumps. Then you're going to go to a 220 to get it ready for varnish. You're going to put your varnish on. Then you might hit it with a 400. Then you might hit it with water. And you're going to go through a successions of finer and finer abrasives until the product is done. What we did is we basically took that process, but converted it to glass. And really the way the key to scratch removal is understanding that basic concept, okay? Now, do you need to know how to hold a grinder? Yes, you do. All right. If you've never picked up a 7-pound grinder before, after an hour and a half of grinding, your arms are going to feel a little juiced, right? But, you know, it's all about keeping it flat on the glass. So what I always tell everyone is we have systems in place and training materials and instruction manuals and unlimited technical support that the average person who's never touched a grinder before, it's going to take about 2 to 3 hours of them playing around with it before they're going to be comfortable going out and doing it. After that, you're going to spend the rest of your life getting better and better and better. And so I always look at it, whereas a new novice is going to be able to remove scratches from about 5 to 7 square feet an hour when they're first beginning. Once they've got about 40 to 50 repairs under their belt, they're going to be in the 10 to 15 square foot an hour in terms of comfort and how they're moving. And really the upper threshold for non-routine cleaning scratches that might be put in with a razor blade, that's how we're going to call it, you know, the upper threshold of like the world expert could do probably around 24 square feet an hour. But, and when I say world expert, I'm talking myself, Cole Pashuta, Andrew, and maybe 2 or 3 customers out there, right? But for the most part, those of us who are grinding every day, that's the upper limit. So that's kind of, you know, an idea to give it to you. We try to make it very accessible by explaining it in ways that most people have had experience with. Most people have sanded a piece of wood in their life. So when we can explain that, okay, we're doing the same basic concept on glass, it makes it a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So with that said, we know that this product, I mean, the service itself, it actually is a great source of revenue. It's a great money generator. So how does that compare to actually like a customer having to replace the glass, the cost comparison?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with glass, I mean, obviously every market is different, and in any glass manufacturer, right? We can go from gelled windows that you're going to pick up at Home Depot that are off the shelf, you know, whatever, to custom high-end Panda doors that are, you know, an entire wall moves. And so the glass really does run the gambit. And what I always tell people is, you know, when I'm pricing a job, my goal is to present a value proposition to the homeowner or the building owner or the business owner that is a win-win, okay? The win for them, on the most part, if you can save a customer 50% or more in doing any kind of restoration service, you've generated enough value, right? So long as the finished result is comparable, right? Okay, obviously if you're swapping one problem for another, well, you're not really doing it, right? If you don't get the scratch out, or if you put deep distortion or something in the glass, you didn't solve the problem, you just swapped the problem. Sorry, hold on one second. Wind just started blowing my umbrella that's shading my computer. So there you go. All right. So from a cost standpoint, where we try, and what I encourage glass Renu users to do is I target 30% the cost of replacement. So if I've got a $1,200 sliding glass door, right? Okay, I'm looking to come in at roughly $400 on that, about a third. What I have found is when you present a price that is 30% the cost of replacement, the customer jumps on it. If you go any lower, you don't get it's a point of diminishing returns. Beyond that, going to 25%, you're going to get the same close rate at 30%. So stay at the 30%. Now, in terms of how do you know what that is? On average in North America, architectural tempered glass runs about $25 a square foot. Okay. So it's, you know, there's so much variation in terms of thickness, in terms of single pane versus IG or triple pane IG. You've got large format, small format. So, you know, making blanket statements about, you know, when it makes sense is really difficult. But what I always generally tell people is, for me to pick up my grinder and go out and fix someone's glass, I'm not doing that for under $250 at all. And that's going to get someone about 5 to 10 square feet of rock damage. If someone took a rock and was writing on the glass, right? 5 to 10 square feet of that, $250, no problem. And I'll be done in about 45 minutes. You know, that's as the minimum. Now, I've done other jobs where, you know, the glass was irreplaceable, or it was going to take 12 months to get a new one because it can only be made at one tempering facility in Canada or Germany or whatever. And in those ones, then I don't care. I don't tag it to anything. I mean, I think one of my favorite stories is we all have, and we all know this as business owners and whatnot, your FU price, right? You know, someone calls you up with a job you just don't want to do. So you throw out a price that you're like, it's so absurd, no one will ever take it. And then when they do take it, you're like, well, all right, I'll do it because it's this much. But
it's worth it.
I had a builder in Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, actually in Tahoe Donner, which is a subdivision off Tahoe. You may know it or not. But up on the top of one of the hills, they were building this new huge house, mega mansion, whatever. And there was this huge cantilevered room made out of concrete that goes out over the hillside with, like, I want to say it was a 15-foot by 11-foot half-inch piece of tempered glass cast in the concrete in place. Above it, there was a steel awning that was bolted to the concrete. But when they were tightening down the bolts, one of the welds snapped, right? So they had to bend the awning back and then re-weld it in place because they couldn't get it down. And as they did that, welding slag, when they were chipping the slag and it was coming down, hit the glass and burrowed in.
Wow.
This was like a $45,000 piece of glass just to start with. And then to get it to the job site was going to be another 45 grand or whatever. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was going to, all said and done, this was about $100,000 oopsie. And so, but I didn't know that because I didn't ask. This guy called up. He's like, I got welding slag. You're going to have to be on a ladder 25 feet up in the air and all this, you know, and so I asked the questions. He's telling me I don't like doing those jobs. I can do them, and I have done them, and I ended up doing this job for what it was. But he described it to me, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. Out here came, oh yeah, for about $8,500, I could do that. And the guy said, done.
I meant 50.
You know, I mean, I should have. Yeah, I was like, why didn't I go for 15? You know, whatever. But I will say, you know, $8,500 for about 3 hours work. That was one of my highest paydays. The other big one, and I'm curious if you ever worked on this building, Nick, out in San Francisco, 401 Harrison. So when you go over the Bay Bridge and you take the Fremont Street exit, that first exit on the right,
yep,
these two high rises that are right by the exit. I mean, so close that you could like lean out your window and high five someone on their balcony. Years ago, a Raider fan, there are very few of them. Just kidding. He's wearing, yeah. But there was a Raider fan, and they actually won a game, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, what do we do?"
Won a game.
So the guy goes into his closet. He gets out all these fireworks, goes down onto Fremont Street right out, or Harrison right in front of the building, sets up a mortar tube in the bike lane, and starts lighting off starbursts. Okay, he gets about 5 of them done before the police come and arrest him because he's drunk and all this. But what's important is every one of those starbursts jumped to about the 34th floor before it exploded and rained molten phosphorus all over the north face of the building.
Oh my God.
So every window on that north face from the 20th floor to the 44th floor had damage on it. And this happened, you know, the guy got evicted and all this kind of stuff, fine. But then the building went to be sold to someone else, and the new owner said, we're not taking it unless you fix that glass. Now, that glass was going to be about $1.8 million to replace all of those panes that went in there. Now, when you're selling apartments for $3.5 million, okay, you can, you know, sell one apartment, you cover everything. But the new buyers didn't want to do that. They wanted to see if it could get fixed. They didn't want to pay for it. They wanted it fixed. So we went out and we did that job. And I want to say it was 3.5 weeks worth of work for about $350K.
Wow.
On that one. Customer, building owner was stoked beyond belief. $350K versus, you know, 1.8 mil. Yeah, I'll take that every day.
That's crazy.
The part that's going to blow everyone's mind is that for materials alone, we spent less than $4,000 on materials for that whole job. So the only cost I had was labor, insurance that I had to add an insurance writer, and then I had to hire a company, Webcore, who came out and they ran the swing stage for me because I wasn't certified to run a swing stage and, you know, didn't do anything like that. So from a profitability standpoint, I mean, that was probably the greatest year ever. But you know, the whole point is there are jobs like that happening in every city right now. It's happening in New York. It's happening in Chicago. It's happening in Atlanta. It's happening in Miami right now. So, and the main reason I want to share this with everyone is I think a lot of people look at glass scratch removal as a state fair midway novelty, right? Step right up. I'm Billy Mays. I'm here to tell you that what's the next greatest thing. And a lot of that has been because so much of the technology before we started overpromised and underdelivered. And whenever anyone had a problem, it was kind of like, well, good luck to you, dude. I hope you figure it out. And if you do, let us know and we can help other people. My approach has always been that, you know, in life in general, I never ask anyone to do something that I wouldn't do or I can't do. And I won't sell a product that I can't use. If I can't get good results on it, why would I think anyone else is? And, you know, and I have a very important rule at Glass Renew for every salesperson that comes in. Every salesperson who comes in goes through training and learns how to fix the tools while they're learning all the sales stuff. But before they're allowed to get on the phone to actually start calling to do sales, I send them out. Say, go, you need to go find a job. Okay. And I need $500, 5 crisp $100 bills. Second I get that, you can come back to work in the office. Okay. It usually takes 1 to 2 days for them to figure it out. They come back, they hand me the $500. I give it right back to them as a bonus, say, good job, enjoy it, take the rest of the day off. We'll see you tomorrow. The next day they come in, we pick up the phones, and that's how we get going. But it's important to me that anytime a window cleaner, a power washer, a contract service customer of ours calls up and says, guys, how do I do this? I want to make sure whoever picks up the phone, they've done it, let alone talk to other people on how to do it. Because really, otherwise what happens is we get the blind leading the blind, and that never works out. And so, you know, Glass Renew, we're very, very, very customer centric. In fact, you know, our big motto is that we're about solutions, we're about service, and we're about support. And, you know, those 3 S's define who Glass Renew is. And I'm very proud, and I stand behind that, because you know, those are the kinds of businesses that I want to associate with, and I want others to associate with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just want to piggyback what you said earlier, a couple of things. Number one, well, first of all, I just looked up 401 Harrison. I've never cleaned that one, but I know the building. And I know the building right across the street that was being built recently. It's probably done now. I remember looking out across it because we do a bunch of buildings around there.
Yeah.
And it's that welding slag all the way down the building. I can see it you can see it from the freeway, honestly, if you're a window cleaner, you know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
So you're right. It's a problem out there that's happening. The welders don't necessarily care about window cleaning. You know what I mean? They're not worried about protecting the windows. So it is out there. It is available. And another story about just the massive benefit there, the value for the customer as well. I had an employee who worked for a different company that did this. So unfortunately, it wasn't us. But I know they used Glass Renew products on a massive project in Vegas. It was going to cost them. Similar thing happened to your story earlier with
property consultants, Paul Popa.
Yep.
Yeah, good old Paul.
Yeah. So tell us that one, because I can't remember the exact numbers.
Okay,
but
so that was the Jewel property in it was about 3 city square blocks. It's a huge apartment complex. And what happened was they were painting. And when they painted, they got overspray on every window because they did a really bad job masking. And that Nevada sun just cooked that stuff on there. So the only way they could get it was with a lot of pressure and a razor blade to get it. Well, everyone who cleans windows knows what can happen when you have tempered glass paint and that. We don't need to go into what it's called. But whole point of what I'm getting at is every window was chewed up. So it took them, I want to say they were down there for almost a solid 9 months. It was crazy. Popa actually bought a house down there to house all his guys that were there, and then sold it when he was done, and actually turned a profit. So, you know, it's a good just throw that
Do
out
you
there.
do you remember the numbers on that? Like, I remember it was going to be something like $10 million to replace all the glass, and they did the job for like $500,000, something like that. It was. I don't remember the exact.
It was going to be. I want to say it was north of 9. It would round to 10 to replace, and I want to say it was go over 5 that he did it for, but it was under $1 million. I want to say it was probably somewhere in the 750 range.
Yeah.
We actually, believe it or not, we've got video of Cole going out to that job. We've got, if you go to the Glass Renew webpage, there's a little Easter egg for you guys. If you search for GoPro in the title, there's one that says Las Vegas GoPro. It's got some good techno music that Cole put it to and all that kind of stuff. It's a promo video, but if you want to see what that job looked like, that's a great video, a minute to pump you up and get you excited about scratch removal.
Yeah. So there you go. It just goes to show. It's funny that one of my guys worked on that job. But it just goes to show that like there's a ton of money to be made from this because they have to do something about those scratches, those marks, whatever it is. And yeah, if you can save them $9 million,
hey,
they're gonna love you.
I mean, and that's switching gears, not looking at it from a service standpoint, but just to give you guys an idea. I mean, one of our other customers, like we work with a company called Lippert Components out of Indiana. No one knows who Lippert is. Okay, they're a no-name brand, except they're a $1.8 billion company. Okay, now what Lippert Components does is they supply everything to the RV industry. Okay, they actually hold all the patents for the slide outs. Any RV you see that has any part that slides out, that chassis comes from Lippert. The other part of their business is they do windows and doors. And out of one of their plants, they produce 130,000 windows a week. Before we went in there and we're helping them, they had a scrap rate hovering around 7% of the product they were making every day. 7% was getting a scratch. Something got messed up and it had to be scrapped.
Wow.
We went in there with their annual spend. Okay, they spent less than $80,000 in those first few years. I'm not going to give you the exact number, but just to give you less than that, we were able to save them about $5.5 million a year.
Wow.
And those numbers, now we've gotten it down where they're at a 0.5% scrap rate. And those are due to cracks or breaks, not because of surface damage. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, I mean, we're talking about RVs, okay? Now, for you guys right now, window cleaners, bam. But I know there are window cleaners who go out and clean RV dealers. I know that there are people who go out and clean all these other – there are opportunities everywhere you look. If you live near a marina, guess what? Every boat on there is going to have hard water stains.
Yep.
You live close to the ocean, every window is going to have silica stains. So it's really scratch glasses that damage that's been right in front of your face that everyone looks through, and yet it proposes to offer the best profitability.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how can people get trained on this? Do you offer courses and
love it?
Where
love
and how
it,
do they do
love
it?
it? Love it, love it. Great question. So we offer a whole series of different opportunities. We do offer certification, in-person certification at our facility in Northern California. We also do offer, we have a whole series. We've got over 200 videos on YouTube that go through everything. We produce several series with window cleaning resource. Those are in there as well. One was called Restoration Revolution, which is a 6-part. It's about 45 minutes or half a 6-pack of beer, depending on where you live. But I would say, go through those videos. It walks you through the entire process, kind of gives you the basis. I'm very excited to announce that we are just getting ready to launch what we're calling our First Friday free training program. This will be open to everybody and anybody who wants to come. You will need to come to California, to sunny Pacheco, California, which is San Francisco Bay Area, for a half day of hands-on training and learning questions, Q&A, and all that. Anyone who comes there is going to get a discount on anything they buy there. So I recommend anyone who's been thinking about it, not sure, whatever, come on out. You get to learn about the tools. If you decide it's something you want, you're going to get a discount, so you'll get it cheaper. And you get to expense the rest of the weekend in Napa to the business. So bring your wife, go have some wine and cheese, have some fun, right? Do a little post-COVID celebration, and build your business. We'll do it all, but we're hoping to have the first one. Currently, California is still under shelter in place until hopefully this Sunday. We're knocking on wood that we'll be able to open it, but it's looking like July is most likely going to be the first. I don't know that we'll make it for next Friday, but there's lots of exciting things happening next week about Glass Renew that we'll talk about in a bit that can fill that void, so to speak. The other thing that's really exciting, I can't get too in detail about it yet because we're still signing contracts and agreements, but we are in the process of establishing an East Coast global training center that will make it so that anyone, so that if you're on the East Coast, you don't have to come all the way to California. You'll be able to stay out there. We should be hopefully having more information about that coming in the coming weeks. But our hope is that we will actually be launching our inaugural training, again, assuming the pandemic, plays ball and everything like that. We're actually looking at tying it in with the huge convention for the PWRA, that time frame as people are coming in, because unfortunately just about every other trade show this year has been canceled, and I like to do things like this when we can get everyone in one room. It just makes it a lot easier, and honestly it makes it a lot more fun. One of the things I think both of you guys can attest to this, I mean, the best part about being a member of the IWCA is it makes these educational opportunities more fun. You get to meet people, you build relationships, and that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I've been in your backyard all this time.
I've
even bought products from you. I've been to your shop and bought products and still had never met you. So getting to meet you at the last convention was an absolute pleasure. And
absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited for the first Friday trainings. I'm bringing 25 people. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. And you'll be excited because I'm thinking about having Kinder's cater. So
ooh, there we go.
Oh, see, that was the hook. Yeah, Black Fisherman. I was telling you, Ron Popeil. There you go. Anyway.
So you're also doing you got a webinar coming up here pretty soon, right? Tell us about that.
We do. I'm really excited about this webinar. It's going to be next Tuesday, so June 2nd. And I believe it's at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in Central, you'll have to figure that out, and no one cares about Mountain Time. I'm just kidding. I'm so kidding. I love Colorado. I do. Anyway, so what we're going to be going over is how to assess different types of damage on glass that a window cleaner is going to run into, okay? What are the damages? How does it affect the strength of the glass? How does it affect the way the glass performs? What is glass made of? How is it made? What are the different types? So we're going to go through really a whole bunch of different aspects on that. And then we're going to go into a little bit and touch on the different methodologies then for attacking the different types of damage. But we're really breaking it into what I like to call routine restoration and non-routine restoration. Routine restoration is going to be things like hard water stains, building runoff etching, or very light, scratches that you can feel, just barely with your fingernail. Non-routine would be things more like what we were talking about, welding slag or graffiti or, all those things that are not necessarily going to be very prevalent in a residential setting, but in commercial settings are going to be far more prevalent. And, I think anyone who's, I love residential as much as commercial and the next guy, but commercial tends to usually have bigger budgets. And they're not deciding, do I buy groceries or get my windows fixed, right? So, I haven't figured out how to beat out groceries yet. But when I do, we'll do a webinar on that too, and then I can share that as well.
When you figure that out.
I swear,
So is there ever a time where you would instruct people like during the training or whatever, or you yourself to just not touch it? It's too bad.
Absolutely. And we're going to be going over those too, but generally the general rule of thumb is as a little teaser for it. This is a great question. And it's something that, there's a lot of question about, obviously, we can repair just about anything. Okay. The question then becomes, should we repair just about anything? So there are generally 3 rules that we like to follow. The first rule is that the glass needs to be properly supported. Okay. Meaning if I come up to a storefront window and when I touch it, the whole window gives 2 or 3 inches, I'm not going to do that. right? We need to get that window reglazed. And if you're going to go to through the process of reglazing it, it's going to be more cost effective to put new glass in, right? Because that's really where the cost is going to go. So that's rule number one. Rule number two, we don't do anything with anything that has any structural damage, meaning cracks or chunks of glass missing, okay? Now, if it's a scratch that has chips going along the edge, that's fine. That's easy. We can remove that all day. But if I've got a pellet or a BB hole through a piece of glass, or if I've got an already starting to propagate crack, we don't want to touch that, okay? So that's rule number two. And then rule number three, the only other type of glass that I always push everyone away from is metal security glass. So it's a laminated piece of glass that has metal down the middle, you see them, oddly enough, you see them in prisons and schools, which is a whole different conversation. yeah, there you go. But what ends up happening with glass like that is that the metal mesh in between the two panes acts as a heat sink. And so you could be working in the lower left corner of the glass, monitoring temperature, doing everything looks great, and not realize that a foot away on that same panel, you've got a super hot point in the center of the glass that you can't measure. And what ends up happening is the glass will just randomly explode. And so, yeah, it was funny. I did a demonstration for the California Department of Corrections out in Folsom. Went up there because one of the big issues they have in their secure housing unit is that they'll move an inmate into the room. The inmate will bust off a piece of cinder block or something, and they'll scratch the glass so the correctional officers can't look in and see, so that they can ambush the officer when he comes in. So from a safety standpoint, it's a big issue. I went up there and they're like, Cody, we've got 800 of these things a month but at the rate we're replacing them, let's do it. And I was like, all right, well, let's try it. 5 for 5 broke on doing it. And I looked at him. I was like, you know what? There's something going on. Let me take a couple of these and play with them. And what I ended up having to do is use a FLIR temperature gun. So normally in our process, when we do it, we like to use non-contact laser temp guns because hot glass and cold glass look identical. All right. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go talk to a glass blower, because man, hot glass sucks when it touches. So we use a non-contact laser temp gun, but it's only measuring the surface. We had to go to a FLIR system, which looks at infrared and how heat dissipates, and they use it for all kinds of different stuff. But in doing that, what we were able to see is the area that I was working was staying cool, but I had random other areas that were radiating large levels of heat that we couldn't find with the non-contact. And tracing that problem back, figured out what was going on. So those are the only 3 rules that we have. Other than that, then it comes up to, then the only other, as long as it doesn't hit those 3, you can do it. Then the question becomes on economic viability, okay? If I'm going to be taking scratches out of a 4-inch by 6-inch individual light on a French door, it's going to be cheaper to replace that one piece of glass. If I'm looking at a $50 bus window insert, it's probably going to be cheaper to replace the glass, right? But once you start getting above that $200 to $300 range, the glass quickly gets more and more expensive. And when you start looking at all of the new technology that's going into glass, whether it's low E coatings, argon filling, multi-pane, you start looking at the new frames that they're doing, what can end up happening is that cost of that window gets up there real quick. And so, I think, looking at it, I would say about 90% of the damage out there is absolutely repairable and makes sense to repair. The other 10%, you're going to want to you got to look at it. And if it's part of a bigger offering, right, you're cleaning the windows, you're soft washing the house, and you're taking the scratches out on that 1 or 2, then that's more of an opportunity for you to work it in. But if it's one of those, I only need you to come out and take, 3 scratches off my mirror in my bar men's bathroom. Mirror, you can get a new bar mirror, a bathroom mirror for $35, right? Yeah. I'm going to tell them every time, no. It'll be cheaper to just replace that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And obviously for any of you guys who are interested in this, you'll get a lot more training on that when you go to the webinars and come to the trainings and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also important and the other thing I want to say about the webinar is the topic du jour, so to speak, is how to assess and attack these types of things. But I've also cleared my schedule afterwards. Now, do not take that to mean that I'm going to be there for like 3 hours, because I'm not. But I am opening up, and figure it's going to take about 35 to 40 minutes for the presentation as I'm going through the different points. And then I've opened up time for Q&A. And what I would love to invite everyone out there, obviously, I want questions about what the seminar is going to be. But if you have other questions, or if you, hey, I came across this one time and I didn't know what to do, or hey, have you ever run into this, that, or the other? Please, the only problems I can't solve are the ones I don't know about. And the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask. So, I invite you all and everyone who's watching this, please come join us. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to tell a few jokes, get some laughs, learn a lot of stuff, and hopefully get some questions answered.
Awesome.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Cody. So I know we've been running up here, so I want to respect your time. But before I let you go, just tell us, what would your top 3, and you don't have to go for 3, it could be 1 or 2, but what would your top tips for window cleaning owners be for running their company?
For running their company, so not necessarily scratch removal or glass restoration.
Right.
What are the top 3? Okay. Wow, that's a really good question. All right. I would say the number one thing is, first and foremost, don't try to do everything yourself. Okay. I have met so many business owners who refuse to involve employees and other people in their business. And the tighter they squeeze, the quicker their control runs out. And I think, sometimes, first of all, being an entrepreneur is never easy, right? I mean, everyone, like, you go to a party and people are like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. And for the first 15 minutes, it's really sexy. It's a lot of fun. But, until you've had to pace at the foot of your bed on a Thursday night before payroll gets drawn, praying to God that the other checks you cut aren't going to get cashed, until you know that stress, you don't really understand that the sexiness isn't really that sexy. I would say, so number one, don't try to do it all on your own. And as kind of a caveat on that, find a mentor. Okay. I was very blessed to be the son of 2 entrepreneurs, and the grandson of a Fortune 500 CEO. And so I was born in business and I was raised in business, and I am all about that. But I will be completely honest. I make 4 to 5 phone calls a day to trusted resources and people that I trust and I have worked with to use as either a sounding board or to get advice. And I would say more often than not, I've learned more from them than I have from doing it myself. So that's number one. Number 2, if it's not profitable, it's a hobby. And I hate to say that because when I started Glass Renew, for the first 3 years, we weren't profitable at all. And that was okay because it was a calculated risk and how I was doing it. But I think there's also a lot of people out there who, a lot of business owners out there who keep chasing for that profitability. But then as the revenue comes in, all of a sudden the expenses kind of keep going and they don't know how to control it. And, I always do this. I say, just because the money comes in this pocket doesn't mean I get to pull it out of this pocket, right? If I'm a business owner, and that sometimes is a hard thing for business owners to reconcile. It's easier, obviously, if you're a one-man show, but the bigger you get, that's that. So that would be number 2, profit. And then I would say number 3, don't bullshit a bullshitter. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter if your window cleaning company makes $45,000 a year in revenue or it makes $450,000 or $4.5 million. A business is a business, and the business is there to create a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. Nobody does anything benevolently, right? As much as I love what I do, and I probably would do it for free, I wouldn't do it for free. And I don't think anyone else will, right? So it's one of those things where you got to look at it and really just kind of understand that every business owner that you talk to, sometimes, in a social media, keeping up with the Joneses world, and especially with all of the forums and the personalities and everything, sometimes it can get a little tough for a business owner. Some companies right now were not able to get a PPP loan. Some had to furlough all their employees. Some had to shut down completely. Who was it? The sun shines on the just and the unjust alike. Thank you. Ecclesiastes. I was like, no, that's a Hemingway book. No, that's the Bible. There you go. I was like, for whom the bell tolls. All right. That was from Sun Also Rises. Sorry. I'm a buff of his. But anyway, I would say, one of the things that it always makes me giggle a little inside, but then also kind of feel bad for them, is when I hear business owners posturing. Okay. We all get it. I posture to the world. And if you can't figure that out, then you haven't been paying attention. But, the whole point is that's what we do as business guys, right?
Right.
It's okay amongst other business owners to embrace and say, yeah, you know what? This year I did 65,000. Last year I only did 50. I grew, X percentage. And that's okay, because if you do it and you follow the path and you ask for help and you keep profitable, steps 1 and 2, 3 will attend to itself. And you'll be able. I have met some people that had I not known how successful they were as window cleaners, I would never in a million years assume that they would be able to generate several $1 million a year window cleaning. And you look at it because, I clearly backwards hat, beard, and whatever. I wear what's comfortable for me. These other people do. You guys all the same. We're all the same, right? So anyway, that would be, I guess, my 3 big ones. My 4th would be get a glass renew system.
Love it. No, those were awesome. Wow. Very good stuff there. So you kind of already said this earlier. I'm hoping you'll touch back on it again. But what do you think the biggest benefit is for people in any industry to join their industry's organizations?
So that I am so glad you brought that up, because we work across a number of different market verticals, a number of different industries, and all over the globe. And we have been blessed to have the opportunity to belong to a number of different organizations, the IWCA being one that has actually always got a special place in my heart, because it was the first one that we did. And it was really where I broke my teeth with Glass Renew. But what I've learned over the years in doing it, there's a number of benefits that far outweigh any costs that would be associated. The first is networking. Okay. And as I said, don't try to do it on your own. Networking is important. The reason we study history is so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. I guarantee, Nick, that you have stepped on every landmine you could find on your path to get from where you are to where you were to where you are. And yep. I bet you that there are a couple of guys I could think of 2 right off the top of my bat. I would venture to bet that when you've got questions about rigging, you're going to call Jeff Scott, or you're going to call George Aguilar. If those are 2 guys that that you met, okay? Because I don't think you spend much time in Madison, Wisconsin, or in St. Louis, Missouri, do you?
I do not.
No, see, there you go. But that's a great example. There are 2 guys who are experts in safe rigging and high-rise window cleaning that are in other markets that don't compete with you, so to speak, right, on your day-to-day bread and butter, and yet how many landmines did they help you avoid because they had already stepped on them? And that's where it comes in. When you join an organization like the IWCA, you're joining another group of business owners who are all on the same path. Okay, we might be slight variations, but we're all basically at point A trying to get to point B. And as we find shortcuts, as we find things that work better than others, as we find new technologies, this gives us the opportunity to really quickly come together. So networking would be number 1 for, my number 1 thing. The number 2 would be education. And I think, obviously education is something, my grandfather, one of the wisest men I ever met, and I was privileged to not only be related to him, but to know him. He always told me when I was a kid, he's like, Cody, if you're going to invest in anything, invest in education. And I said, why? And he said, because it's the one thing that can never be repossessed. Now, when you hear the CEO of Clorox tell you that, you pay attention, okay? And that's the point. Education, when you join the IWCA and you have the ability to go in and take these classes and learn from experts, learn from content area experts, whether it's about marketing, whether it's about glass education and understanding scratches and stuff like this webinar, or maybe it's about, you know, SEO, or it's about water-fed pole or pure water cleaning, or, you know, any number of different topics that could really benefit everyone. If you're not part of the association, you're not exposed to it. If you're not exposed to it, you're going to still think that if I can feel a scratch with my fingernail, that piece of glass is done. Instead of saying, I can feel that scratch with my fingernail, and that's an opportunity to go make $900. And that's where organizations like this can really do it. So yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I hope everyone here or everyone who is watching is an IWCA member. If you're not, the good news is we got a show next year in Vegas, and I'm sure you'll be hearing all kinds about that. But I would love to meet every one of you out there that isn't one. And, you know, and the easiest way to do that is to get on a plane and get to Vegas. So there you go.
Yeah, awesome.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for, was that you're going to mention the networking and mentoring. I mean, what better place to find a mentor? And a mentor doesn't have to be a paid person. It can just be a friend who has more experience than you. I have so many people now from going to these organization, you know, meetups and the conventions and stuff. I have probably 50 people in my phone now that I can reach out to for different things that have more experience than me. I didn't have that 5 years ago. Well, you know what I mean?
And the other side of that is there are 50 people that can now reach out to you.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, it's interesting. As a quick aside, but I think it plays to this. So last week, it was very unfortunate. I'm in Martinez, California, home of the martini, also home of Joe DiMaggio. If you didn't know that, martinis were invented here, and this is Joe DiMaggio where he was born.
Did not know that.
Our downtown area got hit by a tagger. The guy went down and he messed up all these windows, broke a bunch. And, you know, obviously there was these businesses, most of them are restaurants. And there was one particular restaurant, happens to be the best deli in town. If you're ever in Martinez, go to Luigi's. And I spent a lot of time there. I definitely like sandwiches. But I went down there and, you know, for me, it was one of those things where it was like, no, you know, this doesn't happen in my town. I'm sorry. And I fixed them all for free. I mean, now he's given me a bunch of sandwiches and I'll have sandwiches for the rest of my life, I'm sure. But when I was doing this, okay, it was interesting because I had an opportunity to talk with another business owner in an entirely unrelated industry, in an entirely unrelated, you know, instead of B2B, he's B2C, he's selling food and all this. And in talking with him, I found another mentor. And why I bring that up is it's also important when you're looking at the mentor-mentee relationship being both ways. It's not necessarily to say that you have to be a window cleaner only to go and join the IWCA. If you're a pressure washer or you're a contract cleaner, this is a path to expanding and growing your business. And if the goal of every business, again, profit, profit, profit. If it's not profitable, it's a hobby, right? I'm not profitable when I brew beer because I drink it all. But so that's a hobby, right? But glass restoration, that's a job. So that's the whole point. And so now Luigi, he's in my phone. And the funny part is I've actually had several conversations about, you know, different marketing ideas and pitches. It's another soundboard. So in looking at organizations and looking at mentors and mentees, you know, my father, he ran an advertising and marketing business. He's never, ever once had to manufacture an actual product, right? So what the hell could he possibly have taught me about Glass Renew that I, but what he did is he taught me that business is business. It doesn't matter if you're selling a service or you're selling a product, okay? At the end of the day, you have to create more value to your customer than what you're charging them for. And if you cannot do that, you don't have a business, right? There are only 3 ways to create value: price, quality, or speed, right? It used to say you could pick any 2. I say that's BS. Let's change that. You can do all 3. If you can be faster than installing a new window, well, window cleaning is definitely faster than getting a new window. It's definitely cheaper. And the same quality as new, right? Hopefully. But same with scratches, okay? We can fix a scratch in place for a fraction of the cost in half the time. And as long as the damage is not, you know, again, not cracked, broken, whatever, and you take your time, it's going to be indiscernible at the end. So that's really, you know, it doesn't matter. If you're cleaning windows, you want to always be looking at what can you do to be more cost effective, faster, and produce better quality. And as a guy who used to work in aerospace defense, let me tell you that cost and speed will never, ever, ever, ever equal quality. Okay? Because people will pay for quality. People might pay once for speed and price. Yeah.
I was just going to say that.
And also remember, 20% of the market doesn't care about quality or speed. They just care about price.
Right.
You know what I call those people? My competitors' customers.
Yeah. Love it.
Because when I get someone who calls and the first thing they say to me is, ooh, your price, you know, I say, you know what? I got a guy for you. Give this guy or give this guy or give this guy a call. And I let that headache float over there.
Yep. I love that. I do the exact same thing. And like you said, they might pay for the price once, but they always call you back. Mm-hmm. They go, we won't do that again.
Well, and you know, and that's the other thing too. I mean, it comes down to quality. Callbacks, especially, I mean, when I had the window cleaning Surface Renew, window cleaning company for a while, a callback was horrible. You had to go back out, right? So your double fuel cost, you got time, and you got a pissed off customer who then is also, not only did you have to come back to do it, almost lost it again. Hold on one sec. Sorry, guys. Oh my God, it's windy here. So, you know, I mean, yeah, you got to come back. It's double the cost, double the headache, and your customer now is concerned about quality. And that's going to be an issue that is going to come the next time if they call you back and every time after, because nobody remembers what you did for them 10 times ago. They want to know what you've done lately, right? And so keep that in mind.
Yep, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Wow. Cody, this has been an absolutely awesome show. Thank you so much for being on here, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I love what you guys are doing. I'm really looking forward to the webinar next week. I'd invite everybody to do it. Paul, if you could tell them how they sign up, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so you guys can get on our website, www.iwca.org, and on the front page and the news feed, you can just sign up there. You can register. We're going to print certificates of completion after that gets over. And then Cody, at the end of that, will probably talk to you about a couple of things we'll be working on with the IWCA members for certifications eventually too. So don't want to miss that.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So Cody, how can people get a hold of you and get in touch with you?
If you have any questions for me, obviously, you can always get a hold of me through Glass Renew, okay? My email is Cody, C-O-D-Y, @Glass Renew, spelled GLASSRENU.com. I get 20,000 some odd emails a month. I'm pretty good at getting back pretty quick. Most of them, obviously, I filter through, but that is definitely one way. The other way is to give us a call at 888-769-0001. Okay, that's our number. You can also go to our website, glassrenew.com, spelled GLASSRENU.com, and get all that information as well. We're here. We're a resource. We're open. We've been open through COVID on skeleton size. We've been helping people grind glass all over the country and all over the world for that matter. So if you got a question, again, the only problems I can't solve are the ones I don't know about. And two, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. Okay. So definitely, if there's anything I can do to help or be more information, please feel free to reach out to me or to any one of the awesome team members at Glass Renew. We'd all be happy to help.
Awesome. Well, there you go, you guys. So go sign up for that webinar. I know I am. Hop on. If you're not already an IWCA member, get your membership, get signed up for the convention. It's amazing. I think prices are a lot cheaper right now. And Cody, I'm going to come out. We're going to get some sandwiches and drink some of your beer.